So we are also defined based upon the cardinal principles, the different rules set up to us through our stalwarts. We talk about law of simplex, singles, similars, minimum doses, drug dynamization, drug proving, theory of vital force, and all these with Herring's law of cure will give you real cure. You cannot defy any one of the principle. You really have to follow each and every principle. Only then cure is possible. You cannot say that this is my choice. So, embryology is also law of nature. It describes you how the life has developed from a single ovum, from a single sperm to the whole multicellular organism which has come to birth, the whole existence. So, embryology helps you to understand all these principles through a certain way, through a certain technique, but you cannot defy any one of them saying that it is my choice. You have to go into depth and understand. So, this was the depth knowledge given by our stalwart, Dr. Herring, who was really a based person, who was very scientifically based person. Just see the immense knowledge this person must have, that he could sum up everything and define into certain set of rules. The cases he must have studied, the number of cases he must have studied to come to a conclusion that yes, this is the only principle, apart from this there is no other way to understand the cure. So when we talk about 280 aphorism, the dose of the medicine that continues serviceable without producing new troublesome symptoms is to be continued while gradually ascending, so long as the patient with general improvement begins to feel mild degree the return of one or several original complaints. If you talk, why I have purposefully put this aphorism is कि when you are talking about Hahnemann sir, when you're talking about organon, so people might ask कि where did Hahnemann sir mention about Herring's law? So this is the aphorism where he has mentioned that once you give a rightly selected medicine, mild degree, the return of one or several old original complaints come up. So what is this? This is nothing but a aphorism talking about Herring's law, the principles what Herring law has put up, where Hahnemann himself says ki yes, when you are giving certain medicine, if it is the right mild degree, patient starts to become better, and return of old or several symptoms, so return of old original complaints. So he is again talking about the restoration. This is nothing but restore the health, restore the sick to cure. So Herring law talks about above downward, within outward, center to periphery, most important to less important, reverse order of appearance of symptoms, and the most important aphorism point which was being concluded by predictive homeopathy by Dr. Prafull Vijayakar sir was more destructive to less destructive miasm. This was a corollary which sir has added. Yes, the above five corollaries were given by Herring sir, but this is the last corollary, and I will tell you that this is the most important when you talk about miasms. Miasms go to the top list. So when you talk about all this, so how will you understand now? It becomes really very difficult when you go to cases how Herring's law is to be understood. We will definitely take few cases where you can understand law of cure. So, what is a law? As you all know, what Webster talks about, it is unvarying uniformity that occurs, a rule or order that is advisable or obligatory to observe. So, we are talking about everything till now was that it is obligatory. If you talk about cure, that you have to follow Herring's law. Scientific, logical, and universally accepted truth is something which is called as law. So, when we are talking about Herring's law of cure, this is very scientific, it is logical and universally accepted. So, through embryology, I'm going to explain to you the scientificity, the logical reasoning behind Herring's law of cure, and how it is an universal truth. And if you are following this, only then you are on the right mission of curing the patient. and there are no exceptions to the law. So law cannot be changed as per the personality of the doctor. So when we are talking about this, why we need to study this? There are many questions which came to me last time कि मैम आपने पढ़ा तो दिया, the lecture was very interesting, we found it to be very knowledgeable, but what was the implication? So today we are trying to understand the evolution of human being, the constitution. I told you last time how we are evolving through our previous lecture, understanding how the organs, the tissues are connected to each other, how these organs and tissues develop, the correlation between disease development, that is the pathophysiology of the disease, the theory of suppression, and then the process of cure. So we have to understand embryology so that we can understand so many things. So the key to unlock the cure, I will say, is one of the best tool will be through the key of embryology. So if you understand the constitution, if you understand evolution of this man, you correlate with the diseases, you understand theory of suppression, cure process will be in your hands. So when you're talking about embryology, we know we have discussed in the previous lecture that it is study of origin and development of an organism, the prenatal phase before the birth till the birth process. We need to understand each and every phase of this fetal development. And as we all know, the science has advanced. We are so meticulous now that we know at what time, what period. We have so efficient knowledge given by our ancestors that we know कि this is the week, so this will be the development. So everything is so perfectly timed up, so perfectly planned up. If we make a mistake, if anything goes against this plan of nature through the principle, it will bring up the disease process. So we have to differentiate and distinguish ideal cure from non-ideal cure, understand law of cure, and know and understand direction, the depth of the disease, and depth of remedies. Yes, I will say depth of remedies also, because once you are giving a right medicine, you should know the process also. Ki my medicine is it right or wrong. So embryology will help you to that extent. Sorry. So we know that there was certain competition between millions and trillions, millions of sperm entering through single ejaculation, and only one single sperm really defeats everyone and succeeds to enter the cervical canal, to go to the fallopian tube and really fertilize the ovum. So we are have to have that much courage, that we have really had that tough fight to come to this phase of life. So when we are talking about man, we are talking about how this man has evolved. So, this whole constitution, which is made up of so many systems, so many organs, so many tissues, but yes, this whole constitution as an individual, if we have to understand, we need to understand all the organs, how they are made up of, what are the functions. We talk about anatomy, we talk about physiology, we talk about pathology, go to the deeper level of how these organs are connected to each other, then how each and every organ is made up of so many tissues functioning with the same function, coming in a single unit, and they form a single organ. So all number of tissues having the same function form a unit constructing an organ, and these tissues are made up of cells, and this cell has got a DNA which is carrying the whole information coming from our ancestors, our parents, that is the male and the female part both. So this whole set is connected to us. So whole body is connected to, and we are connected to the universe through these genetic material, through the genetic information what we have. So we all know that when we are talking about the zygote, when we talk about this phase, when the sperm has already fertilized the ovum, after this fertilization, the cell division starts. The unicellular organism multiplies to multicellular. The zygote which is containing the all the genetic information coming from the parents, from the mother side and from the father side. The whole genetic information is like an atom bomb which is stored inside the mother's womb when the fertilization takes place, and the whole genetic information is being transferred to each other, and the cell division starts. The cell cycle divides. We all know that we are made up of XX and XY, and therefore giving birth to a male child or female child is being decided by the universe. No one can challenge this part of conception, that you can give birth to a male or female, because this is the top secret plan of the universe, not revealed, not given right to anyone, and the balance is made by the mother earth through the nature's law. So those who are trying to change, as we have seen in the previous cases, I have seen the cases of clean filters, I have seen the cases of Down syndrome, I have seen the cases where the identity of the patient is being hampered. All those cases, somewhere the mother had tried to give the thought that being a male, I don't want a female child, I want a male child. It can be under a pressure, it can be under anything. So there are chromosomal mutations at the meiosis level, at this level, when the mother is being forced to bring. So the thought process of mother can really affect the whole genetic process, and mutations do happen when the cause is very syphilitic. But to change to this extent needs a very strong syphilitic thought, or some strong syphilitic reason to bring the mutation to the identity level. Why I'm talking about identity? I'll tell you, friends, when you're treating the cases recently in camp, we saw the case of Klinefelter's disease. We When we are talking about the syndromes where the XX and XY is being hampered, when you talk about uh, bisexuality, when you talk about sexual disorders, I'll say you, so this, the reason has to be at this level, the reason will be at this point of conception. So the thought process what mother had before the pregnancy, even before the pregnancy, has to be considered. So I'll just get connected back to my topic. So when fertilization takes place, the whole zygote is getting divided. This whole process, friends, this is a top secret plan. Till now the mother is also not aware that yes, she is pregnant, and she is also not aware that fertilization was a successful attempt, and I am going to give birth to certain new things. A new life is going to come into existence through my womb. So here everything is so fast and so meticulous that they know that after 2 days what happens, 3 days what happens, and when it comes to the 6th day, when implantation has to take place. So anything which gets obstructed when this process is going passing through this fallopian tube, there are ectopic pregnancies which are happening when the fertilized ovum fails to go ahead. So fails to go ahead and go into implantation. So definitely the mother has to be an anxious mother, something which is impatient. I'll tell you what happened is, when it had to pass through the fallopian tube, it was demanded by this ovum which is fertilized to move ahead, and something which why you don't want to go ahead now. I'll ask you a question, that in this whole journey why you don't want to go ahead. So something goes ectopic, something goes against the rule of the nature, that you have to definitely go ahead and you have to go walk down to the endometrium to get implanted. But I am so much in a hurry that I don't want to follow this rule, and I will not go ahead, and I will get myself implanted over here, giving rise to an ectopic pregnancy, a fallopian tube pregnancy. So again, this is against the rule. The mother has to be very defiant, not ready to accept. A rigidity must be there in mother. Few more things has to be there, because they are failure to move in ahead in the life, and therefore the ovum also gets stuck up over here and you land up with ectopic pregnancy. Yes, even I have seen the cases of the mothers who are suffering with ectopic pregnancy. They are very defiant, they are very obstinate to certain extent, and they don't want to bend anywhere, and therefore they become very rigid, very obstinate. If you must have seen a very child who don't want to follow father, no, I will not move. They don't want to move from their places. How rigid they become. You want to carry them and they are very rigid. I don't want to go ahead in my life. So they become stuck up somewhere in a situation, and this stuck up will definitely give you an ectopic pregnancy. Not ready to accept, not ready to bend, not ready to go ahead in life will give you an ectopic pregnancy. And yes, this is against nature's law, nature's principle. So the journey goes ahead, going again ahead. So here, as the days are passing by, how the germinal layers are built up, this becomes very important to us to understand how the whole one single cell containing the DNA, RNA, the proteinamics, the proteins being transferred from the mother to the child, how this information is getting transferred, and how the whole structure from a unicellular organism is developing into a multicellular thing. So the whole genetic code is being transferred from the parents to the child. So before we also get aware, the whole genetic code is being transferred to the next generation. And we all know that womb is the luxury apartment, and everything over here happens is need versus demand. Whatever need the mother has, whatever the need the child has, the demands will be fulfilled according to that. If mother tells that everything is happy, I'm really very happy, I'm very satisfied, I want a healthy baby to be conceived, and I'm very happy and I accept the pregnancy, the result will be a very happy, healthy, good child, a sorry baby coming into birth. Anything, any conflict going against the thought process of conception will give you that disorder or that mutation which happens at the congenital level or the intranatal life. We have already taken this part in the previous lecture, so I will not consider again and again. So, development of each and every cell of the embryo is according to need creates the demand, and demands give the supply. So, whatever I want, if I want to construct a restaurant, I will create the design according to restaurant. If I have to construct a hospital, the architect will design everything like an architect, like a hospital. So, what happens now? When we are into this luxury department compartment of my mother, so what thing is required first? So what is the first thing which is required? So you all will say ki ma'am, first thing what I need will be my perfect planning, that what now I want. I should have a perfect plan in my mind ki yes, if I say to my architect, no no no, I want a hospital, now second day I go and I tell him, no no, I want a home. So what he will say is ki you have to take a decision right now and get into stick up into that decision. So that decision power, that first decision has to come up, what you want, that perfect plan system has to come up. So as you all know, in our body the whole planning and programming is done through our brain. So the first thing which is required will be to develop the neural crest, the neural area. Now, it cells divides. Now, what will happen is after neural crest, you will say that I want certain cells to divide. But for those cells to divide, the cells need to grow in certain size. I will need certain stimuluses that the cell should grow. Now, for these cells to grow, I will need a control system. A control system, I will say, is ठीक है, now I have decided a plan that I want to construct a hospital or I want to construct a home, whatever. Now my perfect plan is that now I am very much fixed. I am very much planned enough that yes, I want a hospital. So the whole plan will be according to a hospital. So now what architect will say is, now I want a control room, because after this you give me that authority that I will plan everything. The control system has to come up. For this growth I will need money. Now you have to go to the bank, you have to go for the loans, you have to collect money. So everything is like, you need hypothalamus, you need that growth hormone to grow now. So the requirement is to have a growth hormone. Now, if I say, okay, fine, the plan is ready, I have sanctioned my plan through the government. Now I have to purchase a land, and the land, what will he say that now to build up that machine, to build up that whole building, I will need concrete, I will need cement, so that food and nutrition has to come up for that growth of the child. So from where this food and nutrition which is required will come up. So we all know the food and nutrition for growth which is required will come definitely from the metabolic activity. The ATP which will be released, from where this ATP will be generated now. That ATP requires, the all the metabolic activities are under the control of thyroid. So you know that hypothalamus, growth hormone, the pituitary, now the thyroid comes into consideration. Why thyroid is given so much of importance? Because this is the controlling system for all the metabolic activities of our body. Now I'll say ki everything is under control. Now the cell has got sufficient nutrition, sufficient everything. Now the cell will grow, and now the cell is ready to divide into two. So the cell need goes into that division, goes into that emotional stress. Oh my god, I have to bulge up, and now I have to divide, break up into two. So this becomes an emotional stress. So to handle this, the ACTH comes into play, and this is where the adrenals, our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, plays into role. The reproductive system has to continue to work, because the need is to divide. Within seconds the cell is dividing into millions and trillions of cells, and they all are working, but every cell has to be kept under control. So the reproductive system keeps on continuing, and then the anterior pituitary, the gonadotropin hormones, they all come into play, because they have to control the cell division, the demand. So here, how the gonadotropins come into play, because once the cell are dividing, it is already decided it is going to be a male part, or I have to construct a female part. If I have to construct a male part, or I have to construct a female part, so this is already decided. So therefore, everything will come according to us. If I have to construct a female body, I know I have to place a ovary. I know I have to place a certain organs which are for the feminine part. I know the bone system according to the females are going to be less. If I have to plan a male body, I know the testosterone have to be very high. I know the certain structure of the body has to be formed in certain way. So everything has to be planned. So the whole planning system will be according to the male and the female, and therefore after the thyroid stimulating hormones, the reproductive hormones, or the uh, pituitary hormones which are defining it's a male or female roles come into play.